I've been noticing recently that most things really boring, especially things like social media is very boring. And I guess I've just kind of gotten sick of a lot of things, maybe. Or I just value my time to a higher degree, whichever it happens to be. I'm noticing that everything, it feels like everything wants your energy, wants my time, etc. If you just say you look at a video or some kind of social media thing, like someone posts a picture or text or video, they want you to click on it and read it or watch it, etc. And you're kind of giving your energy, your vital force to receive and look at that or listen to it or whatever it happens to be. Hopefully it's a harmonious and a good trade and you're getting something from it. Personally, I don't really like entertainment just for entertainment's sake, unless it's maybe really good or I am interested in it. I'm usually trying to learn something, or trying to advance my spiritual knowledge or whatever. Just say if I'm, messing about on the internet. So I don't really like the whole just pure entertainment type, pure, very trying to grab your attention, kind of grab your style of presentation that a lot of videos, a lot of like social media has. It's quite annoying. It's a bit like the news and how they use fear to push their message. I don't like it. Or like a salesman who's very pushy, very, like that. So anyway, I think you have to value your time. That's really the main point. You have to value your time, your energy, and you have to value what you're doing, because ultimately life's kind of like a in-between of what you have to do, which is basically you have to do things to survive, probably make money, to eat and to live, etc. You probably have to do that. And then also the other one is what you want to do. I didn't want to mow the backyard today, but I had to do it because otherwise it's just going to get more and more overgrown. So it's like I didn't want to do that, and that's something that required my life force, required my vital force. If I could figure out a way that I would never need to mow the back lawn, that would be nice. Similarly, if you have a garden, that requires your energy, again, your vital life force to manage and to enhance, and you quite fundamentally could transmute your life force into, fertilizer, urine, feces, etc. For a field, you quite literally could do that. Similarly, the same way that if you are making money, you are actually converting your life force and time into money. And then you might convert that into food or something else, whatever you happen to want. So try to look at it that way, where everything's just a trade of one thing or another. Same way that if you get someone to do a task that you don't really want to do, you get them to mow your lawn or to, wash your dishes. I don't really care. Washing dishes is fine personally, but you get them to do that and you pay them money. So you're paying them a denser form of currency so that they use their time and body and vitality and such to do something for you, so you don't have to do it. That's one basic idea of finances and all this stuff. But really trying to get back to the main point here, pretty much, I guess because the point at which we're living in, especially with this recession that's going on, pretty much everything it's very draining, it's very drawing, it's very negative, it wants your attention and your energy. And you have to be careful what you give your attention and energy to, personally, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, all right, well, guess let's get some more work done. Every so often I want to just sit and vegetate and just do nothing after if I work too much or I'm just exhausted or whatever. That's fine. But ultimately, life's kind of like you can do whatever the fuck you want, really. Of course, depending on like the level you're at. What do you want to do? If you could grasp infinity, what would you do? If you could imagine anything, what would you imagine? That's really what you have to ask yourself at some points. Instead of just mindlessly browsing whatever bullshit social media you're browsing, or whatever it happens to be mindlessly doing something. What do you actually want to do? Is there anything you actually want to do? Dedicate it to that. So, who knows? So, just say if I wanted to use magic, or if I wanted to use my aura, maybe to heal my body or to enhance something. Usually we are using external energy. External energy really just means outside of the body. Internal energy means internal. So if I'm trying to focus on an object outside of my body, that's external energy. If I'm trying to pull energy outside of myself to more heal the outer areas of the body, that's somewhat external, for example. So how do we train it? Well, it's pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to sit down or stand, it doesn't really matter, you can lay. Firstly, you want to build energy within yourself. So, try to just feel like you're drawing in pressure into your body, into your organs. You're drawing it in. You can breathe more, or you can just draw in. And you want to just keep doing this for a couple of minutes until you feel like you have a sufficient amount of energy within you. You feel like a fullness, you feel a goodness. Then what you can do is step 2, you can circulate the energy. This is, you've basically just built it up in the organs, now you're circulating it through the body, through the arms and the legs, and through all the organs, your head, etc., etc. This is basic circulation meditation. What you're doing is you're using the energy you've stored, assumably in the belly. And you can also use the lower belly region. You can use your upper belly or lower chest region. There are many different areas, for example, to store. And then you're just circulating it throughout your whole body. Now, once you've kind of got comfortable with that, once your body feels more energized, what you want to do is you want to push out of your body, push out to like the skin and outside of the skin, and try to feel the field of energy, which is your aura, around your body, outside of your body. Try to feel, quite literally feel outside of your body. Just keep pushing your feeling, your sense of feeling outside of it. Don't push too far. Try to keep it maybe a hand's distance or less. And you just keep focusing outside of the body. Now, the reason why I got you to draw energy into yourself first, do that for a few minutes, is because you're using up energy to do this. Focusing and training the aura uses up a lot of energy, and you're going to burn yourself out or drain yourself dry if you don't have much energy within you. So you just keep sitting there or standing there or laying, and you just keep focusing on this aura. That's the basic practice. You just keep focusing on it. Focusing kind of outside of your body. And as you practice this continually, you'll get a stronger and stronger aura. And what will happen is, just say you try to focus on an object to perform magic on it, or you try to focus on a spatial location like a room or whatever, or a plot of land to perform, again, magic on it. It'll be a lot easier. Similarly, if you're trying to channel energy to another person to heal them, it will be much easier. So any kind of aura-based activity will be, this is how you strengthen and develop the aura to do that a lot better. Now what you can also do is you can practice expanding the aura as far as you can get it, and just continually expand it. You can also strengthen it, intensify the feeling of the aura outside of the body. Again, you may want to spend more time drawing energy in. I can already feel that I'm starting to lose energy by doing this, I'm trying to intensify the aura outside of me, and I can slowly feel, here I'll bring it back into myself, I can slowly feel my meridians, the channels in my body, diminishing, essentially drying up. I have a decent amount of energy because I only ate maybe a couple hours ago, so I'm pretty much fine, but if I keep doing it, that's what'll happen. So that's basically the aura, and you just play around and practice with, expanding it out, intensifying it, etc. And you can, I've made videos about putting it in your hands, making a ball. You can make like a field, and then just connect the hand's energy fields together, and intensify that. And you can try to make the aura more positive or negative, more hot or cold, more passive or active or whatever. Just really play around to feel it out. And again, if you do this every day, after a couple weeks, it'll thicken. What happens is your aura, you want to thicken your aura. It's important to do that. And that really just happens from continuous practice. And what happens when it thickens is you can feel it a lot easier. It feels, you don't question whether it's real or not. It just is there. It becomes a part of you. It's kind of like a muscle. Your energy thickens kind of like a muscle, I guess you could say, and your control and command of it improves and all that. So, yeah, give it a shot, I guess. Medicine is one of those fields which has been made kind of arcane and occult or hidden on purpose in order to hide things. Truth is, medicine is actually incredibly simple and common, though they make you learn Latin and make the words very difficult or very strange because, they want to make it more, I guess, hidden from the plebs or the common people. I don't think this is a good thing. Paracelsus spoke out against it, for example, and that was back 500 years ago, where he would write things commonly in German. I think we should do that as well. I think if someone has a heart condition, just call it a heart condition, and then describe it. Is it a problem with the circulation, a valve? Is it or maybe you can even describe it energetically, like a hot heart condition, a cold heart condition, or a slow heart condition, or something like that. Just a way to simplify it. I think it's good to bring that simplification in many things in life. But anyway, as I was going to say, medicine is actually more simple than you might think. I guess the reason why maybe it was hidden is more because it was a very high and very important art. If people could learn to heal themselves and strengthen themselves, and they could learn how to gain power, and of course they would gain power over others, and whoever would want to have kind of like a monopoly or control wouldn't be able to anymore. Anyway, Gaining health is fairly simple as well. It's just a slow and steady process. It's just like anything. You have to practice it, regularly. Practice good hygiene. Practice good maintenance of the body. Just simple things, and these will grant you better health. Of course, then you can specifically work on organs or areas of the body to heal and help them. I've always found the best way is simply through your focus, through your energy, circulating the blood and the energy in the body, or specific areas which are in pain or that are troubled. Of course, you can always use herbs and minerals and other things to supplement and to aid this. Also, you can do things like massage or tapping or other physical practices to get in deep. Rarely is there a need for what you would call internal medicine, which is the use of pharmaceutical pills, or external medicine in the form of surgery. These should only be used in absolute last case measures, but even then, you should try to avoid them, I think. I think there's always a better natural way, especially the removing of pieces of the body or putting in artificial pieces. I don't think, if you can avoid that, you definitely should. One interesting thing that I was looking at is the use of frequency for medicine. Now, one interesting thing is that different substances like chemicals, chemical drugs, herbs, etc., have a kind of frequency or a range of frequencies that can be replicated with, I guess a frequency device. I believe these frequency devices that you have I think it's a sine wave generator, which is kind of like a white noise or a tone generator, which creates the frequency. And then I think you have a modulator that changes the sine wave into a different frequency, a higher or lower frequency. Again, it's kind of just like music, I guess, but this is more precise music. Usually these things are ultra high frequency, so they go beyond audible tones in the very high pitch areas, and to a way they kind of replicate various drugs or various areas in the body to stimulate them. I've never used one before, but I think it would be interesting. Personally, I don't need to, because the energy that we use through our energy practices is basically the same as this, or it's similar. These devices are more or less just external forms of what we already use. There's also plasma medicine as well. People have like tubes of plasma, or these projecting things of plasma. I think some people use like testicles as well to ionize the air and such. So there's different forms. So there's, I guess, the plasma form, there's the frequency form, which is kind of like ultrasound, I guess you could say, and there's probably some other forms which are interesting. But the way I see it is that we're doing this with our energy. If you just focus on an area, then you're essentially, sending your energy there, and it's healing. And things just naturally heal when they get energy. Usually, as long as it's modulated correctly. I guess it's similar with the energy devices, where you have a sine wave generator, which is the initial generator of the initial mover. Then you have the modulator, and then you have the projector, which is some kind of device to project it, which I guess would be like a speaker, or there's like rods, or there's like tubes and different metal shapes like antennas and cones and whatever. Similarly with our own energy, we kind of create the energy, or focus on it, and because it's passively just like always there. And then we modulate it to a certain frequency or a certain feeling based on what you want to do. If you need more pressure, use more pressure. If you need less, use less. And then there is the projecting element, which is you're either projecting it in the body or projecting it out to heal and help another person. So it's very similar. I guess all kinds of electronic technology is simply just similar forms of the brain, kind of the same way that different organs relate to different technologies, I guess, or different elements. Like we have water-based technology, plumbing, and rivers and pipes and such. We have air-based technology, etc., etc. Anyway, is that really all I want to talk about? Yeah, I think so. Alright, that's all for that one. You're always getting energy, kind of like in a video game where every time you level up, you get to pick some attribute points like strength or agility or intellect or whatever. Life's kind of like that, where it's very organic and natural though. Sadly, we don't have like a system where you can, kind of like one of those Japanese isekai animes where you can bring up a system and it's got like all your stat points and your skills and such. That'd be cool. But you're continuously getting energy just from existing, just from like being in the Tao, I guess. And the more that you are, in harmony between heaven and earth, or physical matter and energy, or in a good location, you'll just get more energy. Right. So you can invest this energy within your body or within things. You can, use it to do stuff, for example. But what I want to talk about is investing it in your body or in your spiritual or energetic centers. If you don't know about the chakras, I recommend you look up a diagram of the chakras. Now, they are probably the most simple and easiest idea or understanding to see the different kind of archetypal energetic forces within the body. These relate to different attributes, so to speak, like strength or agility or intelligence or wisdom, kind of like in a video game. For example, if I had a weak throat, I wouldn't be able to deliver this message very well. If I focus more on my throat, then I can start to clarify my words. While if I focus maybe around my head, I can start to enhance more the message, or I can kind of think on I can kind of change like almost like the frequency of what I'm talking about, so to speak. And the content, I guess you could say. Now, if you sit in meditation with your eyes closed and you think of a certain attribute or a certain thing that you want to get better at in life, kind of like magic. I mean, this is kind of magic in a way. Just say you think about like you want more money, or you want to get better at speaking. Let's just say last night I was thinking about how King Solomon asked God for wisdom, and this is what we're doing. We're, so to speak, we are asking God for attributes, except without the religious connotation, I guess. But you can use a religious connotation. You can think that you're praying for something if you want. But this is more getting in the nitty-gritty of how it actually works. So, you think about what attribute do you want, and then you focus on that attribute. For example, if I think, okay, I want more wisdom, and I focus on wisdom, and I just keep focusing on the idea, the concept of wisdom, I can feel myself going to the crown. That's interesting. So the physical and energetic location of wisdom is actually in the crown. So then, what you want to do is you want to focus on the attribute and figure out what chakra or what location in the body it relates to. Because then you can just focus on that area mainly. And you tonify it. Tonifying is basically just focusing, kind of like a neutral, relaxed focus where you just continuously feed it with energy. So that's what you're doing, kind of like, you know, leveling up your stats in a game. You're leveling up your stats in real life by just focusing at a certain location. And what you'll start to realize is that whatever talent or attribute or skill or, you know, faculty of life, it can really be anything you want. Just think about, like, what do you wish for in life? What do you want to become better, easier? Those things you will find will become better and easier, and, you know, you'll be better at all that kind of stuff. And if you're really bad at something, it's going to happen slowly, and you have to accept that. You have to accept that it'll be like an everyday thing. We have to practice it every day, and maybe over the course of like a year or a couple of years you get better at it. That's if you're really bad at something. But hey, it's better than nothing, I guess. So I guess physical practices like exercises, or like practicing talking to yourself or others in the mirror, or maybe studying your mind. You can do all kinds of practices for different faculties of yourself. These you can think of as, like, if you've played Oblivion or Morrowind, where you just keep grinding up a certain skill by using it. I guess in like World of Warcraft you have the weapon skills or the crafting skills. You're just slowly building up your enchanting or your tailoring or fishing skill by doing it. And I guess in like Oblivion, you go to sleep after you have enough skills, and then you level up and you get to pick attributes. Usually when you sleep, when you rest, when you don't do something for a while, maybe you take a break from whatever, you know, activity you're doing, is when it starts to like heal up those areas of the body. And then you just notice when you do it again, you're like way better at it. So it's like all that practice that you put in, you know. So yeah, anyway, have fun developing yourself with pure energy. So hierarchy. The ultimate kind of display of hierarchy is something like levels and leaderboards. We use values to simplify hierarchy. Now there's a hierarchy in everything. For example, the hierarchy of money is how much money do you have. The hierarchy of age is how old are you. The hierarchy of height is how tall are you. The hierarchy of weight, again, it's, you know, how heavy are you, etc. You can plot any value you want onto this and have a hierarchy of it, meaning that some people are higher and some people are lower. The people with a higher score are higher and lower score are lower. Hierarchy is incredibly masculine. It's incredibly linear, incredibly narrow-sighted. That's why you can't get caught up in hierarchy. Now, it is incredibly important if you are a man. Don't get me wrong. If you are a man, hierarchy defines essentially who is above and below you and what you have access to. The higher up you are in the hierarchy, the more access you have to life. The more expansiveness, the more you can be expansive, essentially. The more you can do. Hierarchies are somewhat silent to an extent, and they can be instinctual. People can sense hierarchies within others, for example. You can also have overt ones, things like rankings, or if there's some kind of measurement contest or something, or take a leaderboard in a game, or just say a skill level of education. Maybe you're level 3 or level 5 in whatever skill. Level 5 is better than 3. Now here's where things get more complicated about hierarchy, and here's why you can't get narrow-sighted, which hierarchy is narrow-sighted. Because you have the positive or the yang force, which is hierarchy, and you also have the negative or the yin force, which is more lateral or external, exterior skill, ranking, whatever. You could kind of say like negative hierarchy, so to speak, instead of positive hierarchy. And I don't mean the lower end, I mean if you have a line, which is hierarchy, then to the left and the right of it, empty space, and that is the dark spaces, so to speak, the hidden areas. And the hidden areas are things that people who excel in life don't really learn about. Have you ever talked to maybe a doctor? Doctor's the best example for this. Scientists are also good. And notice how soulless, how absolutely unintelligent, how boring, how physically probably pretty weak and undeveloped a lot of these people are. It's because they focused on nothing but hierarchy. Or people who are young and famous, or young and rich, or young and high in the hierarchy of like a business, for example, managers, CEOs, etc. Assuming they haven't made it, but even if they made the business, a lot of these people are severely lacking in other qualities. It's because they focused on nothing but in the case of a doctor, their university education, their exams, etc. They never had any time to perhaps socialize, or to explore nature maybe, or to explore spirituality or something like that. That's where hierarchy falls, is when you get a person who all they do is they work their way up the hierarchy of whatever it is. They want more and more money. All they can think about is money. They want more and more status. They want more and more corporate ranking. A better job. And everything else in their life does not get nourishment, does not get grown. Usually people who suffer hierarchically, because there are some people who are not good at hierarchy. Some people just don't understand how to get better at one thing. Some people just don't like doing one thing. These are kind of anti-hierarchy people. Generally, they will be in a lower position in life. They will have less money, less fame, less of any specific thing, but they will have more of everything else. They'll be more left and right instead of up or down, so to speak. More negative than positive. Of course, it's good to have a bit of a balance to these things. Usually women are more like this. Women have their hierarchy, but it's not as important as a man's. If you are low in the hierarchy as a man, you are treated like essentially like an object, or you are not, you're like a ghost, I guess you could say. It's not until you get to a certain point that you become human in the eyes of society, as horrible as that is. So, yes, men are more hierarchically driven. But I'm not trying to make this video about gender. If anything, about the gender of hierarchy. As I said, You have the linear masculine hierarchy, which is excelling in one thing. And then you have the feminine, expansive version, which is gaining more cyclical experience, maybe more lower level experience, maybe going to the basics again. I guess women have less need of hierarchy because they are naturally not leaders. They're more involved with community. While men usually fight amongst each other for dominance and for control, so that the group or the business, the organization, the family, the whatever, the country is ruled by a singular force, being that man. While women will usually compromise and work together with other women. You notice if a woman is shamed or attacked or insulted or whatever, that usually other women, it's like a hive mind. You've activated the hive mind, so to speak, and they all group together. But if a man is that, other men don't. They'll look at him, they'll watch, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's he gonna do?" And that kind of decides that man's place on the totem pole. So it's different. And then a country that doesn't have, has a union of leaders or like a group of leaders or whatever, that's a feminine, just to contrast the masculine monarchy. So yeah, I hope you get the concept. Basically, the masculine is the singular, the feminine is the multiple. The masculine is the up and the down, the linear, and the feminine is the curve, the left and the right. And hierarchy is a bitch. But ultimately, you gotta learn it, and you gotta try to work on it. And that's working on your masculine, is to climb the hierarchy. While working on your feminine is to kind of not care about the hierarchy. It's just do other things. Do the side quests instead of the main quest, essentially. Do the craft and all that junk in a game instead of, I don't know, your main combat skills. I think you got the point. Anyway, that's all for this one. Quality and quantity. When you do something, for example, an art, or some kind of, who knows, maybe you're doing martial arts or something. Whatever you're practicing, you will have a middle ground. This middle ground essentially is just whatever skill level you are and whatever effort you try to put into something. In the case of a martial art, it might be a punch. In the case of arts, it would be from drawing a picture, making a song or sculpture. This, whatever you make, is kind of your middle ground. Now you can put more quality and time into it to make it a better piece, a better punch, a better program, or whatever it happens to be. Or you can do it quicker. Well, not necessarily quicker. You can do it quicker, but what I mean is you can do it with less effort. Less effort, kind of actually more relaxed. And what happens is that it has kind of less quality, and you have to make it simpler. So from this we can see 3 different kinds of forms of simplicity and quality. The bottom is the quickest, the easiest. The middle is what is kind of natural, and at the top is something you've put a lot of effort and work into. If you analyze art, you can think like a simple scribble would be a very, very low quality piece. Or in the middle would be something that is a picture maybe that's drawn by an amateur, or something that it looks kind of like a scenery, or it looks kind of like a person, but it definitely is not a photorealistic or an ultra professional piece. At the top would be something drawn maybe by, if you look at classical Western art, for example, or modern kind of classical style digital art, which is ultra detailed, sometimes photorealistic, etc.
these are the three categories. Now, you can practice them both. Whatever you practice, you'll get better at it. If you practice detail, for example, whatever you make will be more detailed. If you're making a program, you would add more to it. Just keep adding more and more to this one program, adding more features, adding more variables, as in, it's kind of like audio. When you think of audio from 0 to 10, 0 being the quietest and 10 being the loudest. The 10 would be excruciatingly loud, 0 would be nothing, and 5 would be something that's fairly audible throughout a room. You could then divide it into 100. 100 would just be the analogy or similar value of 10, and the 0 again would be 0. 50 would be similar to 5. So you've basically just broken down the 10, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You've broken that at 1 into, instead of just having 1, you've broken down to 1 to 10, you've broken 2 down to 11 to 20, for example. You've added more detail. This is how detail works, is you're just microscopically zooming in. For example, in science, if we look at that, modern science is very interested in microscopically looking into things. We eventually hit the quantum level, which is very, very small, which you can't take a regular microscope or telescope for that and look into the quantum level. You can look into, I guess, what you would call the small level or the micro level, instead of just the regular level, which, if you look around your room, you're looking at things at a regular, normal level. If you look at maybe a view of a city, you're looking at it from a macro or a large level. If you look at, say, a picture of the entire world, you would look at it from a very big macro level. Then if you look into the structure of metal, and you try to look into its like crystalline structure, this is a very small level. So again, these are levels of viewing. So a simpler picture would be more of like a macro scale of what is happening. You're just trying to get the basic gist of things. A song in a macro scale would just be getting the general gist of things. If you were to zoom in and more in and work in on the song, you are starting to adjust with certain variables, like adjust the sound of certain parts, adjust the modulation, again, adding little motifs and whatever. You're zooming in and you're making a more detailed product or presentation or whatever, end result. So to gain detail, you simply just zoom in and you add more onto the pieces. But ultimately what I find is it's good to be able to look as well in the macro level to get the general gist and feeling and rhythm of a area or something. If you look at geography, you'll see that land has a general flow to it, and it's good to get this general flow, because if you add detail without trying to get a general flow or feeling, if you try to, just say you're trying to punch and you're trying to do too much technique, you're trying to twist too much and use internal energy or whatever without understanding how to do a normal functional punch, without moving the whole body in a functional way as you would with a punch, you start to get blockages and you start to get issues. But once you've mastered the basic, very simple punch, you know how to move your body in a correct kinetic chain, you can then start to add little flares and flourishes to make it more interesting and effective, or whatever you happen to want to do. So if you practice doing things simpler, you get more. It's like ice cream. You can buy cheaper ice cream that's in bulk, and it's not quite as flavorful. It's very simple. It's because it's just made out of raw ingredients, essentially, or fillers or whatever. probably fillers as well in it. Or you can buy a more expensive ice cream that's more complicated and it's more detailed. The flavor is more intense. It's more. It's got little, nuts or syrups running through, or whatever it happens to be. There is no good or bad in this. It's really what you need to do. Personally, if you need to, if I need to do something, I try to make it more simple because usually I just need to do a lot of things. If you want to be a one-man army, you have to learn how to project yourself out into 100, to be like 100 men, I guess. But I guess in the same way, you'd also want to be very highly experienced and complex and whatever. But the main point is that if you practice simplifying things and doing more with less, then you will, eventually what happens is that your simple things, your simple pictures, your simple programs or whatever it happens to be, is going to be your new middle ground. The same way, if you detail them, if you spend more time, eventually that detailed representation of what you're doing is going to be your new middle ground. The same way, I guess, if you do a lot of push-ups, eventually you're going to be able to do a lot of push-ups. That's how it is. It's whatever you train for is what you gain. So, and then that becomes quicker. While it would take you an hour to do something complex, now it takes half an hour. Or just say if it took you 10 minutes to do something simple, that 10-minute simple thing is now your middle ground. It's getting better and better. It just looks better, or it just feels better, or it just is better, or whatever it happens to be. And then you can again simplify further, or you can work more in detail. You can complexify further. Complexification is positive or masculine or yang. Simplification is yin, feminine, or negative. So think about it. Simplification is spatial because you can cover more space. Or complexification is it's drying instead of moistening. It's smaller, so to speak. It's like you could have a person who's very small but very intelligent, or a person who's very big but they're not very complicated, so to speak. If you look at a vegetable or a fruit or whatever, usually volume or size is what sells, is what modern commercial farming looks for. So like an animal or a vegetable or fruit or whatever, any kind of food product, usually the idea is to bulk it up, to make it big. If you've ever had chicken which is too big, being made too big, the muscle fibers, you can see the muscle fibers like strings attached. It's very big and it becomes very chewy, and it's through basically like the moistening of the water element, through the yin energy, thickening it up, making it bigger. Well, you could have the opposite, which is something small but it has a lot more flavor, which is more drying because it's condensed into there. You run into issues when it's too condensed, when it's too dry, there's no meat on it, or there's no flesh on the vegetable or whatever, and it's just hard like a rock. And you run into an issue when it's too big and it's just this nutrientless jelly sponge or giant thing that, yes, you're eating something, but it's not really anything there to it. It's just this big thing. So there are positives and negatives of both. But anyway, this is the spectrum of simplification and complexity.